Women's rights is a popular and controversial topic in today's society. One example is the debate on abortion.
If there were a life, I would hope that that life could come to fruition, but I do think that women should have the right to choose, and that there are certain situations that it might be better for a woman not to have a baby.
In America, women have earned the right to vote and hold highly positioned jobs, and the treatment of women has come a long way, but it hasn't always been like this. In the 18th and 19th centuries, social practices reflected women's role in society. For example, the practice of wife-selling became common during medieval times because wives were considered their husband's property, and these auctions were ways for husbands to end an unhappy marriage. The event was often advertised in advance in a newspaper. A once common medical diagnosis was female hysteria. This was the belief that the stresses of modern life were too much for women to handle, and therefore they became faint, gained heaviness in the abdomen, and had, quote, a tendency to cause trouble. This diagnosis allowed for women to be controlled and written off very easily. One American doctor listed 75 pages of possible symptoms and called the list incomplete. Another example of widely accepted suppression in America is the roles of women in the 1940s and 1950s. While the right to vote had been given since 1929, that was nearly the limit of a woman's equality during these decades. Working women were paid significantly less than men and were still regarded as submissive and inferior. Nearly all advertisements depicted objectifying images of women, showing them as more of an item than a person.
I think that it's getting better. I think that women are getting better parts in terms of there's shows that will kind of represent women in a way that's more realistic, but I don't think that it's really fair overall. A lot of times I think women are sexualized or they're kind of stereotyped, and I think that there's kind of a history of women being represented unfairly in the media. Unfortunately, I feel like we still have a long ways to go.
It's true that customs and social norms are nowhere near the way they used to be, but have they gone away completely or just changed?
Girls and women are still made to feel badly about how they look. They're shamed about their bodies. I have 2 daughters, and even my 12-year-old struggles with this a little bit. At 12 years old, I mean, for as much progress as we should have made in this area, I don't know that we've made much at all. I think we've become more enlightened, and yet the media drives this frenzy that tells girls and women that they have to look a certain way, be a certain way, act a certain way in order to be accepted and loved.
In modern-day America, women definitely have gained much more social and political respect. Unfortunately, this is not the case in many developing countries. Many girls in countries like Somalia, Liberia, Mali, Pakistan, and others never attend school. In Pakistan, for example, 62% of girls aged 7 to 16 have never taken a class. Why is this? The biggest reason is for early marriages and pregnancies. Young women are liable for marriage at 16 in Egypt and 13 in Iran. There is also a lack of funding, government schools, and encouragement in these countries that leads to less girls in school.
You know, it's funny because in world history we talk a lot about the patriarchy and the patriarchal system that has been formed by men and to keep them in power and to keep women down. It's amazing to me that after thousands of years that this system is still in place in most of the world. I think the only way to combat that is education. I think that girls and then young women and then women need to know that they are equal to men. And how do you get that message across? If you're poor and uneducated, that message is never going to go through. Education is the great equalizer. It's true. It's been true over time. It's true for the civil rights movement. It's true of women in developing countries and girls in developing countries. It's true for girls and women who are oppressed in theocratic societies. Right? Education is the great equalizer. It amazes me just how backward we are in the world today on this particular issue.
In Afghanistan, the average woman will only live to be 45, 1 year younger than an Afghan male. These women have suffered decades of war and religion-based oppression, as well as daily domestic violence. 87% of women have admitted to experiencing it in 2015 alone.
I have shown a movie in world history called Saving Face. And it's all about acid attacks on women who have done something wrong in religious societies, and the way that their husbands get back at them is they throw acid in their faces. And there's a whole organization that's devoted to kind of reconstructing and repairing these faces. But who are these people? That we think that girls and women are lesser beings, that they can be treated like animals. Not even animals should be treated like that. Again, huge problem. I'm not exactly sure what the answer is, but it's got to start at education.
In Sudan, while women have made progress under reform laws, the conditions for women in Western Sudan have gotten worse. Abduction, rape, and forced displacement have destroyed more than 1 million women's lives since 2003.
One of my favorite stories is this young woman who gets, it's not favorite because she gets shot, but she gets shot by the Taliban, right? She talks about equity, right? Girls being equitable to boys, women being equitable to men. And the Taliban shoots her, right? Just for spouting her convictions. That woman is brave, right? That woman is brave, and she's striving for something that honestly should be her birthright at this point. It's not, that's sad.
Whether it's a matter of life or death or portrayal in society, every woman deserves her basic rights. Every woman deserves respect. Every woman deserves education, and every woman deserves her life.